2, 1. And
Yes, hello my friends and welcome to another edition of Videoland Express. It is June 16, 2018. Today I'm solo. Frank's not here because Frank had to attend to a couple of things, but I'm glad you're here with me, my friends, because I consider you all my friends. So today in the show, like you can see the poster behind me, is The Incredibles. And I'm going to be speaking about The Incredibles towards the end of the show, but before then I'll speak to you about what's up in store for this year and possibly next year, and also I'll be giving you a rundown of not only of what the movies are coming out between this year and next year. I'll also be speaking a little bit about, subscribing, hitting the likes, giving us the thumbs up. We would really appreciate it for YouTube, because the more people who watch our programs, the more of a say we'll have at the table, which is, very important if you like movies, if you want to see movies the way you want to see movies, and not movies dictated to you to this extent where you're like, I'm not really interested in this, and I didn't really ask for this, but I guess I got it because no one had a say about it. So, as I like to say, this is a rundown for this year, and possibly if depending on the time constraints, I'll do the rundown for what's going on for the next year, depending on how interesting this whole scenario works out. Now, there's a lot more movies I'm going to be speaking about than the movie list that I have listed now, but I'm basically going to give a rundown of movies that I'm probably interested in. Or movies that might be interesting to the majority of us. I may have not included everything. I think they were saying Avatar is going to come out this year or next year. I may have not put it down, but oh well. But it's scheduled to come out pretty soon. So this is a rundown. For next week, we have Jurassic World, which is going to come out on the 22nd of June. And a movie that's very interesting to me is Sicario, the Day of the Soldado, which will be on June 29th. This is going to be with Benicio del Toro. I think Frank and I was discussing with Frank and saying how he's a great actor, that he should probably take up the mantle of a James Bond character. And Frank was telling me, but he was in Star Wars, didn't do too much. Well, he wasn't given too much to work with in Star Wars: The Last Jedi. But he is a very powerful actor, and I think that him as a James Bond character, especially if he takes over this Sicario position and continues it, and I think this movie is going to be very surprising. It's probably going to do very well. And most people may have forgotten that he was actually in a movie with Timothy Dalton as a villain in one of the James Bond movies. That's a bit of trivia some people may not remember. Also, continuing, we have the first Purge, which is going to be on July 4th, the 4th of July. That's pretty funny how that worked out. Ant-Man and the Wasp, which I'm very interested in seeing, which is going to be the 6th of July. Skyscraper with our friend The Rock. Right here, this is The Rock. Now they call him Dwayne Johnson, but kids, I remember back when they used to call him The Rock. He was a pro wrestler. When he used to be a pro wrestler. This is from the movie, a DVD from the movie Doom. I picked this up, and I kind of enjoyed it. This is sort of like, this is my Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. People love the kind of cornball movies. This is my Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. Anytime I have a chance, I'll just put up Doom and have a good laugh. but it's very well acted. The Rock was very good in this film, but I guess he didn't get too many high praises. And to me, it sort of has a cult status. You know, like a Jake Gyllenhaal film. When Jake Gyllenhaal was in that movie, you know, where he saw the rabbit. I kind of forgot the name of it, but let's remember that. Two actors I completely loved, or three actors I completely love. Benicio del Toro, Jake Gyllenhaal, and The Rock. Just put these guys in any movie as the lead, and you can't go wrong. Just put them as the lead, all right? It's sort of like they're the quarterback. Or in a basketball game, throw the ball to any of those three guys, and you'll do just fine. All right. Then after Ant-Man and the Wasp, which would be the 6th of July, we, like I said, continue with The Rock's movie, Dwayne Johnson, in Skyscraper. That is going to be the 16th of July. That's going to be awesome to see a brilliant actor like Dwayne Johnson in more action adventures, because he, you know, in some acting, you don't have to say too much. You just have to express it. And sometimes with your expression, that's enough. He was recently in the movie Rampage, which did very well. It was an awesome film. I enjoyed it. And I'll continue to go to his films. You know, I just think he's sort of a great, quiet actor, sort of like Tom Hardy, that I enjoyed very, very much. I think we all remember the last movie he was in was, well, the last movie we remember him in was in Mad Max, you know, Furiosa Road, which he was awesome. He probably didn't say more than, he probably didn't have more than 15 minutes of dialogue in the whole movie, but he was just awesome without even having to say anything. Up next, within the 20th of July, we have Equalizer 2. I was saying this is an awesome franchise for Denzel Washington. I thought that this would continue. It can continue. This will be like Denzel Washington's, how would you say, James Bond franchise. He should definitely continue. If he loves doing, you know, like Keanu Reeves does John Wick, that's his James Bond. If these actors continue to do these action adventures, they can elevate the genre. Because the genre used to just be about bad acting, but now they can elevate it with their multifaceted expression of acting. They could elevate the whole action genre. Up next will be on the 27th of July 2, will be Mission Impossible with Tom Cruise. That always does well. I don't think it's not going to do well. You know, he was recently injured, and he got a lot of talk because he got injured, but I think it's going to do awesome. Tom Cruise, he has his own production company. He does very well in his films. He can't go wrong. And let's continue to see him. Up next, we have in the 5th of October, we have Venom with Tom Hardy. He's an awesome actor, like I said. I don't think he'll have too much dialogue but in this film, but alone with his expressions and the way he speaks, and he's a physical actor. He's amazing. It harkens back the era of the silent film where, like Rudo Valentino, if you know who he is, look him up, kids. He's sort of like a silent film actor who would express a lot with very little, you know, it was a silent era of films, black and white, where they wouldn't say anything, and just with their facial expressions, their expressions would say a lot. And still, to this day, a lot of us work more on facial expressions, and we sort of speak to each other in this manner, because sometimes, you know, you don't need to say that much to express an emotion. Up next will be Aquaman on the 21st of July from the Justice League. That's going to be an incredible film. Some people don't, you know, believe too much in it because they said, oh, Aquaman, it's going to be in the water. How much can you expect from it? You know, it's going to be, what's it going to be, a whole bunch of dialogue of just him swimming constantly? And a lot of people don't give too much praise to films in water. But if you've seen the Aquaman feature-length films on, I guess, in animated DVDs, they're awesome. So I don't think with our buddy Jason Momoa, he's going to do he's going to be an awesome film. I think that he's really going to surprise us. The last film I really was surprised he was in, when he played Aquaman in the Justice League movie, he was awesome. And also Bullet to the Head with Sylvester Stallone, he was pretty amazing. They had a incredible, I think, axe fight in that film towards the end. It's incredible. I recommend seeing it. I think it's out on Netflix right now, so you could probably catch it. Next up, the Avengers. They're stating that they're going to have the Avengers film come out in the 3rd of May. Let's see. I guess that's the continuation. If you haven't seen this recent Avengers with, I guess, Infinity Wars, this is probably going to be the Avengers Part 2 of the Infinity War, where they'll wrap everything up. Let's hope it's a good one. It's going to be, like I said, the 3rd of May. Watch out for it. You can probably buy your tickets ahead of time, probably beginning of next year or the middle. I don't know. Just check it out. And next up, let me take a swig of water. Next up, we have for the 7th of June, we have Gambit from the X-Men. If anyone knows who Gambit is, Gambit was a pretty interesting character. He would have the ability of throwing cards and they would explode. So let's see what happens with that. I mean, there's a lot of things you can decipher from that. He was a person from Louisiana. He had the accents, the Cajun accent. So it's very interesting. Him and Rogue had a relationship. A lot of people love it. It's a very popular character, so let's see what they do with it. Hopefully it's a big success. Next up will be on the 14th of June will be Justice League Part 2. I think this is when the main villain comes out. It's sort of like their interpretation of their Infinity War. So this is going to be, I think it's going to be very amazing. They just have to work on it, make it good, and I think it will work out for them. Next up, on the 21st of June will be Toy Story 4th, the fourth Toy Story, Toy Story 4. I think it would be incredible. I don't know what the concept of it is going to be. I think it's Woody falling in love or something about it, but it'll probably be good. It's from Pixar, so it'll probably be amazing. Next up, in the 2nd of August, will be The New Mutants. This is sort of like the offshoot of the Mutants. During the age of the comic book, they had something called the Mutants, the X-Men. And now from the X-Men, they did The New Mutants, which was a young teenage mutants, sort of like their version of Teen Titans. And to cap it all off, next year will be on the 20th of next year in December of 2019, Star Wars. Finally, I think it all comes to their conclusion for Star Wars Episode 9. I guess the end of the Skywalker franchise, or the end of the Skywalker story. So let's see what happens with that. There's probably a lot of high expectations, a lot of people looking forward to it. It could be a very surprising movie. Let's see what happens next. All right, next up, before anything, we're going to have a deep dive, since we have a lot of time free, and we're just not going to talk about one thing or another. I'm going to split it all up, and we'll be able to speak about movies from the past, movies we like, actors we like, people we would like to see continue in films. Like I said, Benicio del Toro, Tom Hardy, Dwayne Johnson, Jake Gyllenhaal. Several films I loved, I enjoyed seeing coming back, sort of like Blade Runner 2, Unbreakable is coming back. It's going to work out as a trilogy with Mr. Glass, with our friend Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson. And I love recently I showed Frank and I showed the viewers how I love Blade Runner 2. The more I see it, the more in depth I get it. The many different layers it had. People don't understand a film sometimes. You'll see a film in the theater. You sometimes won't really get into it. You don't really appreciate all the different layers of the film. But the more you, I guess, once you buy it in DVD and you sort of said, oh, I did kind of appreciate that movie. And the more you dive deep into it, you'll see, oh, wow, it had so many different layers. I loved it so much. The greatest thing is, I was telling somebody when I saw Blade Runner 2, how amazing certain characters were. For example, the character Love, who was the main villainess in the film, where she was a replica, and she was fighting against the, I guess, the detective in this film, which wasn't Harrison Ford. Decker wasn't the main character of the movie, but it was basically about the organization and how they were trying to find the replica that was born to Harrison Ford and his wife, who was a replica. And in some of the movies, they lead you to believe that maybe Harrison Ford was a replica too, depending on what film you see, because there's so many different versions of it. And the greatest thing I was telling somebody is that, like, it would have been great if the replica Love would have been Harrison Ford's daughter. And if you've seen the film, I'm not sure, I think it's been long enough. Some people may have seen it. So here are a few spoilers. It would have been great had she been the daughter of Harrison Ford. And it's sort of like a Star Wars thing, where she had gone into the dark side now, and they would have had to end up killing her. And that would have been the sad part about it, if it went that way. But I guess they didn't want to make the film so sad, so they didn't make, even though the most logical point of it, I guess, of the path of the film would have been, had she been Harrison Ford's daughter, and then having her get killed by Agent K, that would have been really sad, which was Ryan Gosling. I would have thought it would have been better for Jake Gyllenhaal to be in the film, to tell you the truth, to play the replica of Agent K, because he's an awesome actor. He can express himself. You know, Ryan Gosling is a good actor. I have no problem with him. I think he's amazing. But Jake Gyllenhaal, for everything, he's so much better at a level where you can, if you see the work that Jake Gyllenhaal was doing, you would see how amazing he is. The last movie I remember seeing him that I was amazed with his work was Night Stalker, where he played a young, sort of a millennial, where he was able to figure out what he had to do to better himself and make a career for himself. He would create something that's non-existent and make something exist. You know, that's how that's a good thing about humans, or us as people. That you take something away from us and we're able to adapt. Hopefully we're smart enough to process the information, figure out our situation, and go beyond our means and figure it out. The best example was when, I guess, the cell phone companies didn't want to give us enough minutes to speak, but all of a sudden they started coming up with plans for, oh yeah, you will cutting your time of speaking on the phone for 500 minutes a month, right? And then we'll give you internet, unlimited data, and unlimited texting. But we'll limit the amount of phones, because the cell phone companies don't understand that their time is over. A lot of the telecommunication companies, they believe that, oh, we're gonna live in this existence forever, and it will never end. But they don't understand. Once we're, like humans or animals, you chop off something like an arm of ours, we'll still keep living, we'll still keep trying to thrive. And like they say, that's the human existence, that you have to keep figuring it out, what to do to survive, to continue forward. Like Bruce Lee said it best, you have to be like water, you have to be fluid. If they stop you at one point, you have to go around them and figure out the best way to better yourself. Don't let yourself be limited. Like I always say to everybody, you can go to one person and they'll say no, but you go to 10 more people and they'll say yes. Once in a while you can go to one, for example, you go to one store and you say, can I get this done? They'll say no. You go to another person in the same store, they'll say yes. And it all depends on who you speak to. Never give up. Don't accept no for an answer. If that person says no, say that's fine. Okay, I'll go to somebody who's going to say yes. And I'm going to accomplish what I need to accomplish because that's what I want to do. And you can do it. Just go to the person who's going to say yes and you'll proceed. If they say no, figure out a way for them to say yes. And that's what I enjoyed about Jake Gyllenhaal's portrayal in that movie Nightcrawlers. And that's why I always say he would have been a great Joker in Suicide Squad. If you want to get a Joker, this is a person you have to hire. But since I'm not a person of influence and no one's going to listen to what I have to say, maybe we, the people, the fans, will eventually wake up and say, hey, this guy would have been the best Joker. Not one person because he's famous or because this is a new hot person. No, find the best actor. Don't find the actor because he's famous, because it's usually not going to be the best for you. So getting back to Blade Runner 2, I enjoy it. The more I watch it, the more different levels I see it. And who knows, I've seen people re-edit Star Wars The Last Jedi and make it better. So if there are people listening to me out there, maybe they could re-edit Blade Runner to make it better, to make it seem like Love, who was a replicant, who was a bad replicant, turns out to be Harrison Ford's daughter. And for all we know, the story could be a little sadder in that part if we look at it that way. So the next reboot that I've heard that's going to happen is The Mystery Men. I'm not sure if a lot of people remember, but this is a movie that came out in the 90s. The Mystery Men. I felt it was a very amazing film. Now I'm trying to look for it in DVD because you don't know if you're going to be able to find these films eventually, because they're all going to go in a pile of movies and information and eventually get lost unless the library one day will decide to keep all this record of man, and then anytime we want to access it, we can access it. And the more we access this information, the more it helps us to create. We can either build on it, deconstruct it, and build it again. So this is one of the films that I really appreciated, The Mystery Men. This is definitely a film that needs to be, like I say, revisited. It had Ben Stiller, Janine Garofalo, William H. Macy, Hank Azaria, Jeffrey Rush, Paul Rubens, that's Pee Wee Herman for most of those people, but Paul Rubens, he's a real good actor, and Greg Kinnear. I guess not too many people remember Greg Kinnear, but The Mystery Man was great. It was sort of like that 90s era of The Watchmen, because these were all people who weren't super powerful, but all decided like they had little power here and there, and if they band together like a group, they would even be stronger. Like they always say, like you grab a twine of sticks or a bunch of sticks, you band them together, you put in a twine, and it's harder to break. So that was the amazing thing about Mystery Men. It was lighthearted, funny, comical. There's so many aspects to it that I appreciate seeing over and again. Some of you may not believe what I'm saying, but take another look. Open your eyes, and hopefully you can see the same thing I see, and you can appreciate it also. These are two films that I really love, and I appreciated seeing it over again. All right, now to talk about, since our time is wrapping up, I would like to talk to you about The Incredibles 2. This film just came out on Friday or Thursday night for most people, which is Friday morning, like 11:30 or 12. And I have to say, I enjoyed it. The Incredibles 2, I would say, is definitely a must-watch. All depends. You can either see in the theater or you could see it in the privacy of your home, depending how big your screen is. But like David Lynch said once, that films are a visceral experience that you have to experience on a big screen, that it shouldn't be seen on a small screen, because then you don't capture all the nuances. But this is definitely a film that I think can be appreciated at home. You know, hopefully you have a big enough screen. Eventually we won't need screens anymore, and you can have like an 80-inch diameter projection on your wall, which would be amazing. Then eventually you know, because the theaters are going to go away. And once they go away, you're going to need that experience. So I'm looking forward to the continuing of technology, where they would work on this technology, and then eventually you'll just be able to watch this all at home, and you don't have to make the trek out to a movie theater. You could save a lot of gas, a lot of money, a lot of time and energy, since a lot of things are going away. You know, like the brick and mortar stores are going away, the theaters may be going away, a lot of the clubs have gone away, so people don't go to clubs anymore. They go to beer halls, and even a lot of the beer halls and bars are going away. And most of these buildings, as business buildings, are going away too. Banks are going away. Most of it can be done online thanks to technology. A lot of the places you used to go to hang out will become residential. Then residential places will be forced to open up locations for people, but that might not be the case. I don't want to give too much spoilers for The Incredibles 2, but it was amazing. Some of the few things I can't say, not to give too much away. There was a little bit of sort of distraction, sleight of hand, misdirection. I could say sort of like a magic trick. And I thought this movie was pretty enjoyable. It's something I've seen a lot of families go to watch. So it's really enjoyable. It's not as good, sorry to say, as the first one, but it's up there's tops. All right, the show is going to wrap up pretty soon, the live show, but then I'll continue for 10 more minutes for the YouTube, and that'll be special for the YouTube. So please catch our channel on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, help us continue to grow. And to the fans out there, I'd like to say, you know, thank you for 30 years. I can't wait till Frank gets back. Right now he's taking care of some business, but adios for hopefully another couple of years. We want to bring more delight information to you, and, you know, share information. Hopefully we share both ways. We give you the information and you listen. All right, good night. Now I continue for the YouTube fans. This is more for the, I'm sorry to say, I keep repeating it, for the likes, the thumbs up, but the more you watch our show, the more you accept us into your home, the more you can listen, give us a chance to speak to you, the more we'll start helping to influence and maybe guide what kind of movies we want to see. I was telling before, when I was speaking to Frank, like, oh, it would have been great if they would have continued Unbreakable as a series. If not for TV, because sometimes TV can't handle it, it would have been great to see it on HBO or on Netflix. Because like Netflix has taken over a lot of things. So in a lot of cases, Netflix can do it right. But now I see over the horizon, there's YouTube. YouTube, they work with Google, and maybe Google's getting their feet wet in the filmmaking business or in the media making business and the context making business, because that's the future. The more context you make for the home viewers, the better it's going to be for you in the long run. Because remember, context, it helps to sell. And as an advertiser, you know, the more you advertise something, the better it's going to be for providing more context. You know, context. So you have to keep producing it so people could be watching it. And it's sad to say, you slip in some advertising for you can help pay for the program, for it can continue. It's sort of like, I know, it's sort of like a vicious circle that you have to pay for something to in order for them to make it, for you to watch it, consume it, and continue that cycle. Because if you don't consume and purchase and watch, then there's there people won't continue to make this context for you to enjoy. These are all stories of enjoyment and fulfillment. So that's why people like to make these programs. It serves a purpose. I know it sort of gets into this whole, I hate to say, sort of this thing like Phil Collins once said in one of these shows or songs where, you know, you appreciate what we have to show you, and you know you like it, you just consume it, and you know it becomes sort of like a little bit of a religious experience. I'm sorry to say that. I know it'll probably offend a lot of people. Oh, how dare you? But that's how it is. You know, we become fans, followers of a certain entertainment, a certain artist, a certain show, a certain program, and then we're hooked. And maybe they have about 5 years of our attention. And if after 5 years they haven't done anything new or they haven't evolved, we eventually go away. So that's why most American programs last about 5 seasons or 5 years. And most programs outside of the United States, like in England, they may only last 1 year, they may only last 2 years. Like The Office lasted 2 years in England, and it was done. It was a wrap. But in America, we were able to drag it on for a lot longer, even though I think after a year or season or two, it is pretty much done. But we were able to, oh my God, we're able to grab a concept, and I hate to say it, either milk it or beat it to death like a dead horse. Oh my God. Yeah, so we usually have the ability of continuing to make these films go on for, I guess, years, which is amazing. And just recently, like I was speaking to Frank, and we were speaking on the air how they were canceling a lot of shows, and a lot of shows were being considered too expensive. And yeah, because things change. People have to realize it. The way things change, the advertisers have to learn to adapt. Before they were laughing at social media and YouTube and saying, "Oh, we're not gonna advertise through social media. The standard bearer is TV." But no, it's not. People don't see television more because television doesn't have an edge. In England, it has an edge because it's sort of like you pay for it, so you get complete, unedited, unfiltered content. We don't. They filter it so much. They make sure that it doesn't offend anybody, that it just loses all its edge. It just becomes like a dull knife or a rusty pair of scissors. So no one cares. But if YouTube or Netflix or Hulu or Amazon, whoever sees that there's a lot of work out there that they can produce, that people will be very interested in seeing, it's just amazing. They can't just say, "Oh, people are tired of superhero films." Well, there's a lot of different types of superhero films that can be made. For example, The Watchmen. The Watchmen is coming back thanks to HBO, and HBO is going to start coming out with it. I guess I thought it was going to be this summer, but I think they're filming it now this summer, and it may come out for 2019. But before I was hearing that it was going to come out this summer. So it's going to be the retelling of The Watchmen. And the whole, I guess if you read the graphic novel of Watchmen from the first magazine to the last, or the whole graphic novel, it's about 5 hours, to tell you the truth. Sitting through it would be a 5-hour work. They made a 3-hour movie. A lot of people didn't like it because they cut out a lot of the hard edges. And even when they show it, it's sort of like still kind of watered down. But The Watchmen as a movie is incredible. Like I was saying before, it reminded me a lot of The Mystery Men, because it's about people who didn't have weren't real super powerful, but they had abilities, and they had their will to bring themselves together for a cause and try to resolve it. What they say with most people, that would sometimes not lead to something good, sometimes it would be bad, but at least it was interesting. You know, I understand that real heroes aren't fearless. Real heroes in some of these movies, like The Mystery Man or The Watchmen, would have fears and doubts. And that's the amazing thing about a superhero film, that these people aren't like Superman and indestructible and unstoppable. They are regular people that, you know, love and cry and fear. And these are usually great topics to make movies based on heroes, where they're not infallible, where they can do things that can go wrong, and they can make the situation a lot worse. That was the interesting things in the beginning, when they used to make films like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where if you do a little study on it, and they talk about how Indiana Jones wasn't really doing anything, that he was actually making the situation worse. And if he would have just stayed out of the situation altogether, everything wouldn't have gone, you know, nothing would have changed. Everything would have gone flawlessly. For example, if he wouldn't have involved himself in the situation, that situation wouldn't have gone off. For example, he is the one who found the Ark of the Covenant, and then a whole situation ensued because he found it. If he wouldn't have interfered, no one would have found it. There wouldn't have been a problem. Sort of like with The Incredibles. That's their situation in the movie too. The government says, you know, sorry if I give some spoilers out, but in The Incredibles, they're like, you know, we had the situation in hand. You should just not have involved yourself in it, because you just made it worse. And sometimes that's what they say. All good deeds. That's what they say about all good deeds. All good deeds lead to ruin, or, you know, maybe sometimes no good deed goes unpunished. But that's sometimes the case. Sometimes you want to do something good, like in these superhero films, or in like these hero films, which usually are the most amusing films, where the person or the hero or the heroine, they want to do something good, but in reality they're not helping in the situation. They're sometimes making it worse. They're sort of like, they have something in their position, and sometimes it would be better for them just to leave it alone. I hear a lot of my friends, they always talk about this and that, and they dive deep into conspiracy. I'm like, unless you're going to do something about it. I would never want to say that to them, because if you say that to them, it'll probably get them even in more trouble. Sometimes I say, look, just leave it alone. If there's nothing can be done about it, or if you're not going to do anything about it, just leave it alone, because you're just going to make yourself get an ulcer, and the situation is probably going to be worse. So unless you're looking towards changing things, you know, don't get involved. I remember growing up in New York, the police would always say that, hey, if it's not your business, leave it alone. You know, don't stick your nose where you're not wanted. So I always thought that was very funny, when anytime an incident would happen and any citizen wanted to stick their nose in or butt in, the police would usually say, look, you're better off not sticking your nose in it, not getting involved, because you know what the situation is. Unless you really have the ability to help, they would tell you not to help. All right, so I guess I'll wrap it up. It's been about 10 minutes. I don't want to bore anyone too much, but again, I would like to thank all you, all the fans out there, all of you all, like I like to say from the South. I'm not from the South, but that's what people from the South say. I would like to say thank you for the 30 years. For Frank, I've only been helping about 3 years, but I enjoyed my time and fun speaking with all our friends. And if we can continue, this would be great. Please check out our YouTube channel. Like I said, this is going to be an extra 10 minutes that we spoke, We were able to speak together. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully we continue for many more years. We thank you for the support. Subscribe and give us a like. Thank you so much. Good night.